who had to learn as his career went on to cut off the ring and not just follow guys around. Like Lara, Trout, Floyd, he followed those guys around. He had trouble because he's really a natural counterpuncher who wants you to come.
Say that like Errol Spence was damaged because of what Crawford did to him because he was damaged from the car accident. I'm like, maybe. Or maybe Crawford would have done that 3 years ago. I think he's that good.
Max Kellerman and Joe Rogan have warned that Crawford could cause some good trouble for Canelo. In a recent talk with Joe Rogan, according to Kellerman, the fight may not go the way many fans and odds makers expect. He has made it clear that he's siding with Crawford, and his reasoning is built on the amount of skill Crawford is bringing in the ring. In his view, Crawford is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the sport today, and he believes that Canelo Alvarez is no longer the same fighter he once was after a career that started when he was barely out of his teens.
Canelo a big dude, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I believe in my abilities. He's a heavy dude, but he's not a big guy. Like, he's 5'8", I'm 5'8", you know what I mean?
I think Crawford wins. There's a reason that I think Crawford's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, right? And Canelo once was. So even though Crawford is biologically older, Canelo has had the longer career. He has been fighting since he's a teenager, and there have been signs recently that he's maybe not the same guy that he used to be. This goes directly in line with Joe Rogan's own breakdown of the matchup. Rogan has also said he believes Crawford can win a decision because of his footwork and movement, while Canelo has leaned more and more on his power. Kellerman and other pros are essentially backing that same idea. Canelo is powerful, sure, experienced, and bigger, but he might be slowing down just enough for a technician like Crawford to make it count.
How do you see this fight with Canelo going?
I'm definitely going to win the fight, for sure. But, you know, I think it's going to be a tough fight. You know, I think he's going to bring the best out of me. I'm going to bring the best out of him, and it's going to be an exciting fight.
The last time I saw Crawford, he moved up yet another division. Beat at the time a guy I thought was the best fighter in the division. Turns out he wasn't. But I thought he was at the time. And before that, Crawford just annihilated Errol Spence. So if you look at all the boxes, I'm going to check Crawford for most of them, if not all of them.
They tried to say that like Errol Spence was damaged because of what Crawford did to him because he was damaged from the car accident. I'm like, maybe. Or maybe Crawford would have done that 3 years ago. I think he's that good.
Those are strong words because even though Canelo has the size advantage and a long list of accolades, Crawford is the one he sees as having more ways to win right now. The odds still favor Canelo, mainly because of his natural size and the fact that he's been a fixture at the highest level for years. But Kellerman made it clear that his own pick isn't changing.
Who's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world? The most recent one. Bud Crawford. Apologies to the monster and Usyk. Bud Crawford has my vote for best pound-for-pound. Who was the best pound-for-pound before Bud? Canelo Alvarez, universally recognized that way.
Now, the conversation around this fight isn't just about who wins on September 13th. There's already movement on what comes after and who fights who. The IBF has confirmed that whoever leaves the ring with the belts, whether it's Canelo or Crawford, will be forced into a mandatory defense against Osley's Iglesias. Iglesias has earned this spot by stopping Vladimir Shishkin in the 8th round of their fight. The Cuban prospect, nicknamed El Tornado, now sits at 14-0 with 13 knockouts, and his win over Shishkin was the kind of breakout performance that puts a fighter squarely on the radar of the top 10 in the division.
Come on! Yeah, get it! 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 Get it! Come on! Yeah, move out the way! 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 Yeah.
So, the winner of Canelo versus Crawford is going to have Iglesias waiting in the wings. If they don't want to take that fight, they'll have to vacate. And Iglesias will then compete for the vacant belt against another top-ranked contender. That's the business side of it, and it makes the stakes of September's fight even higher. Whoever wins doesn't just walk out with history, they walk right into another challenge.
I'm not going in there looking to knock Canelo out. Could it happen? Yes, absolutely. You know, when I look at Canelo, he's a smaller, bigger guy moving up in divisions. You know, being that these big guys is slower.
While that's happening in the background, the debate continues about Crawford's move up in weight as he just posted photos of his transformation. Some see it as a step too far, predicting that the jump will finally catch up with him. Others think it could actually help him, especially if he can replicate the blueprint that worked so well against Errol Spence Jr., using speed, precision, and timing to completely disarm a bigger opponent. The big question is whether his power will carry up with him.
It's a 50-50 fight for me. He going up in weight. You know, Terence going to be great, bro. But at the end of the day, he got the skill to do it. He got the skill to go do other motherfuckers can't do. You know, he just got that. You know, everybody got a little something in them, bro, that everybody don't got in them. He got it in him.
Crawford had a long streak of stoppages that ended when he went to super welterweight, where he beat Israel Madrimov on points. His recent training posts on Instagram have drawn plenty of attention. Observers have commented that he looks like a light heavyweight now, filled out and strong in his new division. On X, one fan said he looks ready to make history. Others compared the intensity of his work ethic with Canelo's, suggesting that Crawford is going into this camp with a fire that might give him the edge.
Him right here. My boy don't look undertrained to me, you know, I'll just tell you that much. He put on the right muscle for a purpose. Everything he did was calculated. There was an intention behind it. And I don't know about you, but just from this picture alone, you know, doesn't mean he wins the fight, but he sure as hell looks ready to come in that ring and, you know, ragdoll Canelo.
That ties into what promoter Eddie Hearn has been saying. Hearn predicts that Crawford's movement is going to be the key to this fight. In his view, Crawford has to make it boring for Canelo, relying on angles, footwork, and defense to frustrate the Mexican champion. Hearn says that Canelo's resume is stacked with names, far beyond what Crawford can claim. If you look at Canelo's resume, it's unbelievable. But Crawford really hasn't had the fights, Hearn told Ring Magazine. He even noted that when he asked Crawford who his best win was, the answer given was Ricky Burns, who was one of Hearn's own fighters at the time.
And you win, and you will see that.
So when I beat you, is you gonna be a nobody? When I stuff a mud hole in your ass, is you gonna be a nobody? You gonna be just like everybody else. Watch. Watch. Same shit that everybody else been saying since I moved to 147. I ain't fought nobody. Every last one of them stump a mud hole in their ass, and he gonna be next. Watch.
Question for Canelo Alvarez.
That's been one of the knocks on Crawford for years. Even though he's been dominant, he hasn't had the same type of marquee opponents as Canelo. Victor Postol, Ricky Burns, and even Jeff Horn don't carry the same historical weight as names like Gennady Golovkin, Miguel Cotto, or Sergey Kovalev, all of whom Canelo has fought. Hearn's point is that Crawford can't really build a resume to match at this point because he doesn't fight often enough, and time has run out for that path.
It don't take a big punch to knock somebody out. It's the ones that you don't see that hurt you. All my fights that I loaded up and I try to catch somebody, you know what I mean, with a big shot.
But Hearn still thinks this fight could be the one that makes Crawford great. This is the fight that will make Terence great. I give him every chance in the Canelo fight, he said. He admitted size could be an issue, but he also raised a question that's been hanging over Canelo for the last couple of years. Is he getting old? Even though Canelo is still young by normal standards, the years of constant fights, training camps, and the grind of staying at the top could be wearing him down.
Canelo versus Crawford coming up very soon. Who do you got for that one? How do you see it going?
It's going to be a great fight in the beginning because Crawford is a great fighter as well. I think that the size difference is going to be too much for Crawford. And I think that once they start mingling and battling, I think that Canelo might be able to get Crawford. But anything can happen. I mean, Crawford can catch him on chin too. I mean, it's not like it's a for sure thing. It just seems that Canelo has speed and his power.
Canelo's power is there, his size is there, and his resume is unmatched. But the small signs of decline might be just enough for a fighter like Crawford to seize on. Meanwhile, Canelo's own form has been in question. His last performance against William Skull didn't do much to silence doubts. He got the win, but it wasn't dominant, and some analysts pointed out that it looked like he was coasting. For a fighter who has been used to running through opposition, that raises the issue of whether the fire is still burning as brightly. Eddie Hearn gives him credit for keeping up the grind of training camps and fights, but he also hinted at the possibility that Canelo is slipping.
I don't think he is, but if he beats Canelo, he'll be like my #1 fighter of all time.
You don't think Crawford beats Canelo?
I don't think so. And look, hear me out. I respect Crawford and everything that he's doing, but he just moved up from 147, so I'm just gonna treat him as a 147 pounder. He's jumping up 3 weight classes to fight someone who was like the #1 fighter in all of boxing.
Dimitri Bivol's coach, Joel Diaz, has delivered one of the clearest predictions yet for the fight. With undisputed super middleweight supremacy on the line at Allegiant Stadium on September 13th, Diaz believes there's little mystery about what's going to happen. In his eyes, Canelo wins, and he wins convincingly. Speaking to the ring, Diaz was confident in his words. Canelo should win. I see Canelo beating Crawford by a convincing decision. There is no way Crawford beats Canelo. Canelo is the king of the sport. And business-wise, Canelo can't lose. If Canelo loses, boxing loses a lot of prestige. But don't get me wrong, Crawford is one of my favorite fighters and pound for pound, the best of this era.
Man, he's got the total package. He can switch from conventional to southpaw. Nobody does it better. Great counter puncher, great boxer, great ring generalship. He can fight if he chooses to. So it'd be dangerous to sit there and fight someone like Canelo, but it's just, I don't know, man. That's a toss-up. It's a 50-50 fight. Yeah.
That mix of respect for Crawford's skill and certainty in Canelo's supremacy sums up Diaz's stand. He expects the fight to be competitive in the early going, but sees a clear turning point once Canelo realizes Crawford doesn't have the power to hurt him. The fight will be interesting and back and forth for the first 4 rounds, Diaz explained. Canelo has been hit by heavy hitters and never even flinched. As soon as Canelo feels that Crawford doesn't have what it takes to hurt him, Canelo is going to walk him down.
To 154, then he's moving up again 2 weight classes against Canelo Alvarez. What do you think about that fight?
It's a good fight, but Canelo has advantage. His favor because that's his natural weight, and then Crawford moving up. If Crawford don't know how to handle or manage his body and his condition,
Diaz has a picture of how that scenario plays out. He sees Crawford trying to make it a fight, but eventually shifting to survival mode. Crawford will make it a fight and fight back, but he's a smart fighter and will play it safe. Once he's hurt, that's when Canelo will take over. Crawford is not going to be exchanging punches with Canelo in the middle of the ring. We've seen Crawford get buckled before, and believe me, Canelo hits harder than Yuriorkis Gamboa and Egidijus Kavaliauskas.
Do you feel that Terence has a shot in beating Canelo Alvarez?
That's the $1 million question. When I watched Terence Crawford get rattled and rocked by Yuriorkis Gamboa, who's a natural 30-pounder, that to me is going to be a huge problem when he gets hit by Canelo. So he fights at 175. He's fighting these big monsters.
That's the coach who guided Dimitri Bivol to a victory over Canelo in 2022, speaking with confidence that Canelo will not stumble against Crawford. But Diaz's take isn't the only expert opinion shaping the buildup. Teddy Atlas, another veteran boxing voice, gave his own perspective when asked about Canelo sparring Jaron Boots Ennis ahead of the fight. For Atlas, the concern isn't about Ennis himself, but about how training is handled for a fighter with Canelo's mileage. I don't want to leave it in the gym. I don't want to get into that kind of war in the gym. No, I want to have control of all aspects of what the hell I'm doing in the gym to get ready for one night, Atlas said on his show.
People are not very excited about that fight, and they think the size difference, huge difference. But Crawford's big, man. Crawford's a very strong fighter. He's a very smart fighter also. So look, the way Canelo's been fighting his last couple of fights, where he's just looking for one punch at a time and maybe not doing enough to hurt his opponents, maybe not doing enough to finish them off. I could see Crawford pulling it off.
Decision?
I think Crawford could pull off a decision because he's fast, he's smart.
He compared Canelo to an older car with a lot of miles on the odometer. I wouldn't want wars with my guy who's been in 65, 67 fights, 35 years old and getting ready for, maybe, he's been in a lot of big fights, but right now it's the biggest fight of his career. He's getting ready for this fight. If I have an older car that's got a lot of miles, I don't want to run it into the ground in the gym. Atlas's caution highlights a real factor: Canelo's longevity. He's been fighting at the top level for over a decade, and while his resume is unmatched, the physical toll of that many fights adds up. Managing what he has left is part of the preparation.
Put it this way, I'll get right to the point. I wouldn't want wars with my guy who's been in 65 fights or 60 whatever, and is at that, 34 years old and getting ready for, maybe, he's been in a lot of big fights, but right now it's the biggest fight of his career.
On the commentary side, Andre Ward has been addressing questions about whether his close relationship with Crawford will influence how he covers the fight. Ward has been open about his ties to fighters like Crawford and Shakur Stevenson, but insists it won't compromise his professionalism. I've called Shakur Stevenson's fights. That's somebody I've openly said, that's a little brother. I'm a mentor. That's my guy. I can walk and chew gum at the same, Ward explained. He pushed back against those who doubt his integrity. I've been in the game a long time. It's low-hanging fruit. And we got to be a little bit more sophisticated than that. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to convince people of my integrity or my professionalism. Ward's credibility as a commentator is one thing, but his personal prediction is another. He hasn't hidden the fact that he's siding with Crawford. Speaking to Boxing News, Ward said, "I'm going with Terence Crawford. Big weight jump, dangerous fight. But somebody has got to prove to me that they can break Terence Crawford's will and that he can't figure it out against you." Ward has added that it isn't about disrespecting Canelo, but about how highly he rates Crawford. "It ain't no disrespect to Canelo, but I've said this the last couple. I'm not betting Terence Crawford against anybody right now. You've got to show me that you can beat him."
It's laughable because you have Crawford jumping up 2 weight classes to fight Canelo, who's a natural light heavyweight. Crawford, who couldn't push back Madrimov. Life and death with Madrimov. What do you think Canelo's going to do to him?
That puts Ward squarely in Crawford's corner, even as he prepares to analyze the fight for a worldwide broadcast audience. It's a striking contrast to Diaz, who sees Canelo as too big and too strong, and to Atlas, who is focusing on how Canelo's preparation should be handled at this stage of his career. The training camp dynamic gained another layer when Jaron "Boots" Ennis joined Alvarez's camp.
Terence Crawford wins, wouldn't be surprised if he loses either. Terence Crawford, when he went up against the best opposition, like Errol Spence, he showed what level he's on, what type of dog he is. So I don't know, you really have to let these fights play out to see what happens. He might get hurt. That might activate him to come back strong.
Could you still make 68?
I don't want to make 68.
No, I know you don't. Terence wins 68.
Yeah, well, if that's, yeah, I can make 168.
Ennis is one of the brightest young fighters in the sport, and his involvement gave fans a glimpse of how seriously Canelo's team is taking Crawford's threat. Speaking before he entered camp, Ennis called the matchup a great fight for boxing, but leaned toward Alvarez when asked who would win. "I mean, that's a big jump from 54 to 68. I mean, it's a great fight for boxing. I guess the world wants to see it," Ennis said to Fight Hype.
I remember when Terence Crawford fought with Madrimov.
Yes.
He looks slow. He looks with no power, and 3 more divisions. Two more divisions. I think it's a tough fight for Terence Crawford, but Terence Crawford is a great fighter. He has a great defense. He has a good combination of punches. But I think the weight classes.
When pressed for a prediction, he leaned heavily toward Canelo. "I'm going to say it's like a 60-40 Canelo, or 70-30 Canelo. Canelo has been at the weight. He's been fighting bigger guys, so he kind of used to being at the weight, so I would lean more towards Canelo. I think Crawford could have a chance, but I would lean more towards Canelo, though." What do you think, though? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more updates.